Hello, biology students. Today we're going to be talking about graphing in our class. So our first part of the graph is the independent variable. It goes on the x-axis. So in your visual, make sure you label the x-axis as the independent variable. So it says what kind of variable, and there's a blank, right? Independent on the visual. So we know that I changed the IV, and now we know that that's on this x horizontal axis. But a way to remember that, and I would maybe highlight this or put it in another color since it's so helpful, is that X-Men fight for independence. Yes, like Wolverine X-Men. They fight for helping people or independence, and that's going to be a way to remember this one goes on that axis. The y-axis is for the dependent variable, dv on the y-axis. So both label that in the writing version and in your visual version over here to the right on your paper. So the next slide is going to have a really interesting visual. You don't have to draw it, but you're welcome to in your extra space on your paper. So let's double check which one goes where. So where should I put, what should go on the bottom axis? Is it the IV or the DV? It's the IV. So in your extra space, you're welcome to draw this drawing. I like it because it helps me remember, oh, that top part of the eye, oh, it's flat. And so it helps me remember that that IV goes on the flat part of the graph. And the DV, oh, it has this really long vertical part. Oh, the DV goes on the vertical section. So if you're a super visual person, draw this in your extra space on your paper, but don't feel obligated or needing to draw this. Let's move on. So what types of things need to go on a graph, and what will you be graded on in this class? The title has to have a lot of information, both the IV and the DV. We'll practice this in class. You need to make sure that the IV and the DV are on the correct X or Y axis. If they're flipped, now you'd lose points. You need to make sure whatever units are labeled. Are you doing this in light years or elephants? No, probably not, but it needs to be nice and specific. The way the blocks are numbered on either axis needs to be consistent. We'll practice this. This is kind of hard. We're also going to be doing digital graphing, which makes that a little bit easy. The size of the graph needs to make sense. It can't be too smushed or small or too giant and I can't read it. You need to pick the right type of graph. We'll talk about that in a moment. And the graph should have a legend that shows the different types of IV. So if I have 0% salt versus 10% salt, how am I going to show that on the graph? I'll probably use different symbols or different colors, and I'll put them in a legend. So here's my different types of graphs. This is our last thing. A line graph is going to show something over time. Here's rainfall over time. Notice that the dots are connected by a line. That's a line graph, change over time. Versus here on the bottom left of the slide, we have a scatter plot. Notice there's no lines on that. There is a number here on the y-axis and a number here on the x-axis for height, and that is because a scatter plot shows relationships between two number or quantitative variables. Quantitative meaning quantities, numbers. So height and weight are both number based, so we use a scatter plot to show the relationship between them. This is compared to a bar graph, which is this middle one, which is showing a relationship between averages and only the DV is quantitative. So this one's showing if a class counted how many different people have different types of pets. Well, pets is not a number-based measurement. Dog, cat, those are not numbers. I count how many people have dogs, and I can graph that. Last but not least, we have a pie graph. A pie graph is going to show percentages, how many people like these different categories of movies. We will practice these all throughout our class, and you'll also have to be analyzing them. So not only do you sometimes make them, but a lot of times you're looking at them. Great job, guys. I'm really proud of you.